Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we teach clients how to build wealth and create passive income without the risk of Wall Street.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host, Anthony Faso, and we just wrapped up our interview with the Land Geek, Mark Podolsky. Anthony, I really enjoyed that interview. How about yourself?
I did too. And, you know, a lot of our listeners are looking for ways to create passive income. They want to get out of that rat race. You know, and financial freedom, as Robert Kiyosaki defines it, is your passive income being more than your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And a lot of times it's real estate, which we've done a lot of podcasts on real estate. This one is a little different spin. And what I like about this is many things. It's a lower cost of entry. Even when we were looking at the rental properties with Mid-South home buyers, you can buy a rental property for about 25 grand, which is better than 100 grand, but maybe people don't have 25 grand. But really, Mark had said, really a good way to start here would be like a minimum of 5 grand. Mm-hmm. And that makes it easier for somebody to get into. So if you're interested in getting out of the rat race and creating some passive income, you are going to love this episode.
Yeah, I saw a whole bunch of similarities between Mark's business model and what we do. One of the things that hit me immediately in reading his book and then also talking to him was his abundance mindset. Right? We've talked about that before, as abundance versus scarcity. He is not afraid of competition as far as even creating his own. I mean, he's got courses, and this book tells us exactly what he's doing and how to go do it ourselves if we want to. And so when you hear somebody that has that mindset, it's awesome, right? The other thing that he talked about was, he says, hey, his business is simple, but it's not easy. Mm-hmm. And we talk about that all the time, is using the infinite banking concept. It's simple, but it's not easy. And mainly it's a lot of the head trash that kind of comes along with it. A lot of the noise from outside that comes along. So, and then that last piece that I was going to compare was really the grit, right? As he talks about having kind of a slow start to that business model and allowing 12 to 18 months to kind of get up and going. And it's very similar to our business. Is we've got a slow start when you look at the policy and how it performs. And, it's just another testament that nothing's easy, nothing's quick, but if we're not short-sighted, we can keep our eyes on kind of the prize and just keep on going, that there's a lot of riches in store.
You know, we've often talked about our 5 pillars of wealth, and this is the only one that I can name off the top of my head that actually fits all 5.
Yeah.
Just to remind everybody, the first, our 5 pillars is cash flow. It's having your own business or investments, real estate and lending, and also the infinite banking concept. You know, all of these pillars have stood the test of time. They still work during the Great Recession, during the Great Depression. These are things that have been going on for 100 years, and land has been going on even longer. And I think that when you can incorporate the infinite banking concept and add that to flipping land, it's just gonna make the returns even better and easier.
Absolutely, I agree.
And we're big on investing on yourself is the number one investment. If Mark is going to share, he has a special for our listeners where you could get a free course that's valued at $97. That's going to be in the podcast notes, but there's also some other education in there. So if this is something you are looking for, I would not be afraid. This would be a great opportunity to take a policy loan and invest in the training, and potentially use a policy loan to start investing in flipping land. I think that this goes very well with the infinite banking concept.
I agree with 100%. And I agree with the fact that Mark thought I was on steroids.
Well, I was going to say, you beat me to it, Mark might need to check his glasses.
First time in my life I've ever been accused of being on steroids, but
yeah, he was saying how good a shape Cameron is in, and just nothing to me. I mean, maybe I need to wear smaller shirts. I don't know. But Mark was a great interview. We have read his book. And I really think if you're looking to create some passive income, you're going to enjoy this episode.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And I got to tell you, I'm excited today. We've got joining us Mark Podolsky, and he is with the Land Geek. And Mark, on one of your intros, it said that you were on a mission to rid the world of solo economic dependency. What does that mean?
So solo economic dependency means that if you're personally not working, you're not generating any income. So if you don't show up for your job, you've got solo economic dependency because that paycheck stops, you don't get paid. If you're a dentist and your hands aren't in someone's mouth, you're not generating any revenue. If you're a graphic designer, you're not doing the work, you're not generating any revenue. So anyone that has a one-to-one input to output with their labor to their work has solo economic dependency. So if we pick on the person, let's just pick on the dentist. All of a sudden they're out and they're working on a home project. They cut their hand off. They're done.
Boom.
They're out of business. And there's a lot of risk. Somebody, we've all heard downsizing, a lot of risk. So we all want that additional stream of income. And ideally the best one is a passive income stream where you make money in your sleep.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Now, Mark, share part of your story where you, particularly in your book, Dirt Rich, you talk about how you went from, and I think you describe it as a soul-crushing job, into reaching financial freedom. Can you share how you came to that journey?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever had a bad job, but
Oh yeah,
I certainly have. I mean, I was an investment banker and I specialized in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And Anthony, Cameron, it got so bad for me. I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I'd get the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. I mean, I was micromanaged. I had a 45-minute commute to work and back, no control. It just was horrible. And then the stress of it all. So my firm hires this guy and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar at these tax deed auctions, and he's flipping them online and he's making a 300% return on his investment. So I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Your average company is 10%, and I'm looking at companies all day long less than 10%. So of course I don't believe him. I got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico with him. I do exactly what he says to do. I buy up 10 half-acre parcels, average price $300 each. I put them up all online. They all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked, 300%. I know. I can see Cameron shaking his head there.
I'm in disbelief, and right is one of the reasons is because I've heard about raw land, and my understanding was that you always had to have deep pockets to be in raw land, and also in conjunction is that it was a long-term buy and hold strategy. And until I read your book, that was my understanding of it.
No, that is the typical strategy. When you think of raw land investors, you think of Ted Turner, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, these billionaires buying timberland or productive farmland and making their 8%. So this model is pretty different. And I'll kind of walk you guys through it in a second. But what happened was, just to finish Anthony's question, how I got to this point, was I went to another auction where I live in Arizona. And again, this is 2000. There's no one in the room. I'm buying up lots. I'm buying up acreage with all the money that I'd made from the first auction. And over the next 6 months, I made over $90,000 cash.
Wow.
So I go to my wife. I'm like, honey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to become a full-time land investor. And she's pregnant. So she goes, absolutely not. Yeah.
She says no.
I said, okay. She said no. So I said, okay. I'm a little impulsive. So I worked land investing part-time. It took about 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full-time ever since. I've done over, as of today, 5,500 land deals.
Wow.
Wow. Well, so why don't you expand on a little bit more about your process of flipping land?
Okay, so I'm gonna teach you guys exactly what I do.
Okay.
So Anthony and Cameron, you guys both live in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a gambling man?
I am not.
No.
The answer is every time I eat out.
Okay.
So anyways, what I do is let's just take you guys as an example. So let's say you guys are living in Vegas, you're in Nevada, and let's pretend that you own 10 acres of raw land in Texas. Okay. And let's say you guys own it together and you owe $200 in back taxes.
Okay.
Well, when I get this information, you're advertising two things to me. Number one, you guys are in Vegas, properties in Texas. You've no emotional attachment to that raw land. Number two, you're distressed financially in some way, because when we don't pay for things, we don't value them in the same way. You haven't paid your property taxes. As a result, the county treasurer is sending you guys a notice every single month. If you guys don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose this property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So what I'll do is I'll look at the comparable sales on that 10-acre parcel for the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale and I'm going to divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm not going to be like the housing guy saying, I'm interested in buying your land. And you're like, oh, I'm interested in selling my land.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the appraisal business. I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500. If we look at the lowest comp being $10,000 on that 10-acre parcel. So you accept it. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. So now that you accepted my offer, I've got to go through due diligence or this in-depth research. So I have to confirm that you guys still own the property, that the back taxes are only $200. There's been no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. This whole property checklist. And I have my team in the Philippines do it for about $11. And at the same time, they're getting me a GIS map, a plat map, aerial maps, everything that a buyer's going to want to know. So as I'm doing my due diligence, I'm making my marketing package up at the same time. Now, if I were going to invest $5,000 or more in this raw land, I would actually go through a title company. But for $2,500, I'm just going to take a little bit of risk and close directly with you guys and use my team who's hooked up to an American title company anyways in the Philippines. Everything checks out. I buy your property, and now I'm going to sell it 30 days or less. So I know you guys know, but do you know who I'm going to sell it to first?
We know, but I would tell you.
We cheated, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
tell the listeners.
It's a great strategy, but share.
So this is why the land is such a cool niche, because we have a built-in best buyer, like unlike any other real estate niche, because it's the neighbors who are going to be most interested in buying that property from us retail. So we'll send neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Before I go to the open market, expand your holdings, protect your views, protect your privacy, know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. My buyers list passes, I go to a little website you probably never heard of called Craigslist. It's 10th most trafficked website in the United States. I'll go to an even smaller one. Maybe you've heard of something called Facebook. It's marketplace, buy, sell groups.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, landandfarm.com, landhub.com, landflip.com, landsofamerica.com. There's land buying and selling land, raw land platforms. There's a ton of them. So, but the way that I'm going to sell it is I'm going to make it irresistible. So I'm going to ask for a $2,500 down payment on this 10-acre parcel. And then all I'm going to do is make it a car payment. Let's say $449 a month, 9% interest over the next 84 months. So it's a one-time sale. I get my money out on the down payment. I might go 6 months out, and then it's a car payment. So I've got this passive income stream of $449 a month over the next 84 months at 9% interest with no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, or the SAFE Act, any of this onerous real estate legislation. So the game that we play is, can we create enough of these land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses, and then we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
Wow. So I like it. You do the deal, and then in theory, if this works, you're getting your capital back within a few months. Maybe hopefully it's 30 days, maybe it's 6 months, but then you're getting that profit or that passive income each month for 84 months. And I'd have to imagine sometimes people stop paying you.
Yeah, that
so
happens.
What happens then?
So 90% of this business is automated between software, inexpensive virtual assistants, and more software on the back end. So I use a program called geekpay.io. And the beautiful thing about geekpay.io is it's a set it and forget it system. So once we put in their note, we're drawing money out from their bank account via ACH every single month. But if that check should bounce, I have a backup of their credit card on file that it will automatically hit. So it's taking my default rate from 8% down to 4%. But because I'm using a land contract, there's no cost to foreclose. I keep their down payment. I keep their monthly payments. They've got 30 days to cure their default. They don't, I'm just going to get another down payment and another note payment. And I extend out that note, and I've got an even larger ROI.
So one thing we've commonly heard, we are big on passive income, and rental properties is one way in order to create the passive income. And one thing we always talk about is, I think you call it what, the 4 R's?
Yeah, 4 R's.
Explain the 4 R's, or is it 5? I don't know.
Right. So let's say that, for example, we do a standard HGTV DIY network fix and flip.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put a tenant in there because now we don't want the cash. We want the actual passive income of rental property. So the first thing we have to do when we buy that crappy house in that terrible neighborhood in Vegas is we've got to hire contractors to go in there and rehab it and renovate it. So we've got money out. We don't necessarily know if those contractors are going to be good or not, but hopefully they are. We don't even know if they're going to show up. Someone's got to be there to make sure they show up. So that's the first piece of it. Is a big headache is just renovating, rehabbing the house. And so not only is there capital that you need to have to just buy the house, you need additional capital to renovate it. Now you're going to take additional risk, and you've got to find someone who wants to live there and be your tenant. Well, if you've ever had to deal with tenants or renters, yikes, that's no fun either. So we're eliminating those 3 big headaches. And then of course, the fourth headache is these unknown variables. Let's say it's a rodent or trash or something going on that physical structure. Maybe the roof leaks. I mean, look, no one's ever called me at 2 a.m. telling me that the dirt is flooding.
All right, Mark. So you had mentioned a couple things here as I got some follow-up questions for. One of the pieces you mentioned was 90% of this business is automated. You'd mentioned software, VAs, and then kind of software again on the back end. Could you explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the last thing that anybody wants is to build themselves another job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea is that you want to work on the business, not in the business. So on the front end of the model is something called LG Pass. It's the Land Geek proprietary automated software system. And so all we do is we get the list from the assessor, we put it into a CSV file, we upload that list into our software, and automatically using an API with lob.com, they do the address verification. They send out our first class mail of offers right to our potential sellers. Once they come back, then we use a little bit of automation, or we might use an inexpensive virtual assistant to do our intake, which means that the seller might be accepting our offer. They might be calling to yell at me. So we don't know. Or they might be, countering. So we want to qualify the seller. Now, it's not a good use of my time or your time to spend all day talking to potential sellers. So we have somebody that speaks good English, talk to them to make sure they understand the offer and they've really accepted the offer. Once it goes through that, then it goes back into our software, and then we start the marketing piece in there. So it runs through that piece. Now we have our inexpensive virtual assistants writing our ads. So we might create headline templates for them, but essentially it's a copy and paste, and we want to be everywhere. At the same time, we have our inexpensive virtual assistant going on the GIS map and finding the neighbors, uploading that list via CSV, and we're mailing out our neighbors again via the software. And then once we have it marketed, then we're going to have lots of people that are asking questions and maybe tire kicking. Again, we have our inexpensive virtual assistant handling that on email up until the point where we have somebody that we get the sense they're really serious, and then we'll have our acquisition manager close the deal, send them the link to make their down payment, or maybe take it over the phone, set up that note in GeekPay, rinse and repeat. And so that's how we scale it. And that way I work about an hour a week in Frontier Properties, where all I'm doing is I'm having a meeting with my team, my acquisition manager, how many offers went out, how many deals are pending, how many deals did we close, how many deals do we sell. And then God forbid you get a hold of me after I've had coffee, because I'm going to break something in the system. I'm like, what, can we do this? What about offer up? Right? Let's market on Zillow. And all of a sudden, this thing that's been working really well, I'm breaking.
You're breaking all these sorts of misconceptions that I've had. Number one is about land, and then number two was a misconception I've had about VAs, or that I've heard about VAs, is there's been a lot of headaches of I've heard there's been a lot of headaches of people hiring VAs from the Philippines or anywhere else, and they kind of roll through them. So maybe touch on that. Have you had a good success? Do you find one or two that are good for you, or how has that worked out for you?
Yeah, it's so funny when I hear that. Ultimately, if you are constantly having VA problems, who's responsible for that problem?
You.
You.
Yeah.
You as the CEO of your company. So we have a simple metric that we use. Let's say that we have a task that we've created a training on that should take 5 minutes. It takes me 5 minutes to complete it. Mm-hmm. So when we're training our clients how to do this business, we're not teaching them to abdicate. Like, don't just hand this off to somebody.
Yeah.
We want to delegate it. We want to know well enough how to do everything so that we can teach it really well to someone else. And a geeky way to do this is, while you're working, use a software like fleek.io, FLEEQ.io, to record yourself. And then it actually uses artificial intelligence, will transcribe it. It's amazing how to create this training document. So let's kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. While we're working in it, let's start working our way out of it. So the metric is a 30-to-1 ratio. So if that task takes me 5 minutes to complete, I will invest 150 minutes with that new virtual assistant to make sure that that process, that system is completely clear. They know what they're doing and understand the why and the purpose of what we're doing every step of the way. So I want people to not feel like a cog in this big land investing wheel. I want them to understand the impact that they're making by helping us in achieving our mission with this business, and the value that they're creating with their work. And now they're going to work with their blood, sweat, and tears, because it's not just, I'm working for a paycheck. I'm working for this mission that's bigger than myself.
Well, Mark, how do you find the VAs, or do you, as part of your program, help finding them?
Yeah, so we have our own trained VAs that people can certainly use. That's at parcelviewer.com. There's also other companies out there. I think it's landmasters.us. So you can already hire trained virtual assistants that understand the land business. However, if you want to get the least expensive virtual assistant, then you want to train somebody yourself, you can find these people on Upwork, Fiverr.com, HireMyMom.com. I mean, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. Like, we have access to global talent. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you started doing this in 2002, is that right?
I started full-time in 2001.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's 19 years. So maybe even part-time over 20 years. During that time, there was a little thing called the Great Recession. And I know Cameron and I believe that we are due for a recession coming on. I've been telling people, like the Game of Thrones says, winter's coming. We need to start preparing for winter, the next recession. I don't believe the next one will be as bad as 2008, but 2008 was pretty bad. So share how that impacted your business.
So land is actually in the long tail of real estate. So while commercial and residential were getting hit in 2008, I was really profitable and doing just fine in 2008. 2009, not so bad. I got destroyed in 2010. Now, if you've read the book, you kind of know my story. I had Parkinson's law of money. Mm-hmm. So the more money I made, the more money I spent. And I wish I had you guys as mentors to be like, oh, by the way, Mark, real estate's on a cycle. Maybe you should save some money for that cycle. That would have been helpful. I'm not mad at you guys. I don't blame you.
Good. Sorry about that.
I take full responsibility, but it would have been nice. So essentially then 2010, it was almost like it happened on one day. Like 50% of my note income just disappeared. Because for my buyers, it was between food or paying off their land, and they chose food. So even though I was profitable as a company, like Frontier Properties was still profitable in 2010, 2011, 2012, I took a 50% paycheck hit, which I wasn't prepared for. Today, I use a system from Mike Michalowicz called Profit First. So it's revenue minus profit equals expenses, and it really helps me, keep my cash flow way more disciplined. I've got this profit account, so I'm prepared now to just buy like crazy when the recession hits.
Fantastic. Well, it's cool. We always talk about Parkinson's law. We even had an episode about the human factors with the infinite banking concept, and Parkinson's law is one that I think everybody suffers from. And I really like that. I like the law. I don't like that I'm affected by it, but I think it's interesting that somebody on the outside is aware of that as well.
I was going to jump back all the way to the beginning. Is one of the things that I really enjoy about this business model is that it's got a low barrier to entry. Yeah. In your book, you talk about you started with $3,000. What does it take for somebody to get started in this?
I mean, you don't need much money. I always say that, the ideal number to make it really, really easy is about $5,000. I've had clients start with like nothing, just enough to do mailings, like $500. And so this is a great story. One of my clients, Paul Mendel, he gets an accepted offer from this guy in upstate New York, and he doesn't have the money to buy the property. So he says, look, it's going to take me 90 days to do due diligence. Well, it doesn't take 90 days to do due diligence. It takes like a day or two. So he buys himself all this time. So then what he does is he has enough money to mail the neighbors. So he sends out the neighbor letters. Well, the neighbor wants it. So he says, great, pay me for the property first, and then I'll go ahead and deed you the land. So he gets the property, the neighbor pays him. Wow. He then does a dual close. He pays his seller, and then he puts on the recorder deed, record 1, record 2, and he made like 10 grand in an infant ROI on that deal.
From selling between two neighbors, however many miles away.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I had another client where she she doesn't have the money. And the guy accepts the offer for, I think it was like $2,700. And he's like, I'll take it. And she's like, I know I offered you $2,700. I don't have $2,700. So he's like, well, what do you have? She's like, I have $1,400. He's like, okay, I'll take it. So she's like, I don't have $1,400. He's like, well, what do you have? She's like, I've got $800. He's like, okay. So it's so, for oftentimes, like, if you look in your own garage,
Mm-hmm.
if I've made an offer for something in your garage that you've been looking at for months and months, you probably accept it, no matter what the offer was. You just want it out of your garage. This is the same thing with our land sellers. They just don't want to keep getting the notices. They want to stop paying the taxes. They're never going to do anything with it. Though they just want, the value is you helping them out of that problem.
I just love that part of it is you see a lot of people that I'm in some real estate investment groups here in Las Vegas, and there's kind of two different groups. As you kind of see the young guys that are coming in that are in the fix and flips and the wholesaling that are really active and after it, and then you see some of the older clients that are in these groups, and really what they're looking for is real estate to kind of be their savior, right, as they know they're behind. And so you see some of the opportunities that they get themselves into, and it's a lot of money that kind of goes out the window in training and in those things. And you look at something like this, and it's a low barrier to entry. Really, it's how bad do you want it? Go make it happen, right? It's not going to take a lot of money. So I think this is an opportunity that's available to a lot of people.
No, it really is. I mean, look, I'm the Land Geek for a reason. It's like the most unsexy niche imaginable, right? Like, you're not going to see me on HGTV on Flip This Land. The before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land. And what's interesting about this model is that there's billions of acres available, but no one doing it. And certainly no big money, no private equity groups, no hedge funds. I mean, 1 million people could be in this niche. You, me, we're all going to run out of money before we run out of deal flow. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that you go to one of those RIA meetings, 100 people in the room, 99 of them are landlords, flippers, and wholesalers. You and I are the only land guys in the room.
Oh, there's hardly any here in Vegas. Yeah, there's none.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark. So let's say somebody's listening to this podcast and they're interested in learning more. Where would you recommend them to go, and what resources are available?
So there's so many places to go. I think the best place to start is just take a course. And I have a $97 passive income launch kit course that really kind of goes more in depth on this model. I'd love to offer it to your listeners for free. So a great place to just start would be the landgeek.com/launch kit. Get that course for free and see if the model even resonates with you. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, then, maybe ATM investing. I don't know. There's always something out there.
Yeah, go find something. Roulette wheel. I don't know.
Go find something.
Yeah.
But you certainly start doing your research and making sure that this is a model that works for you. And then, of course, there's the book Dirt Rich, and I've got my own podcast, The Art of Passive Income, which I'd love to have you guys on. The only problem is, you know how they say comparison is a thief of happiness?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at your setup and look at mine. Like, come on. I'm in a shame spiral right now.
Yours looks great. Guys, what are you talking about?
You guys have taken
climbing
the game
Mount Everest. I love it.
To such a new level. So maybe I would do it, but no video for sure. I can't look at this.
Okay.
Deal. We'll agree to that. That'd be great. We'd love to be on.
Okay, so thank you for that generous offer. So somebody's watched or taken that course, so they kind of have a big picture view. Okay, so now they want to start flipping land. What's the next step?
So I'd say the next step is getting training and smart cut it, because you and I both know that anything worth doing in life is hard. So it's a simple model, but it's not easy. And save yourself the time, save yourself the anxiety, save yourself the money and mistakes, and just follow the recipe of what somebody who's done this thousands of times can teach you. And so I would say get training. Now, it doesn't have to be my training, but get some type of training, and certainly smart cut the process so that you don't end up, in an area you shouldn't be in, or making a mistake that easily could have been avoided, or just have paralysis by analysis. So, we have lots of different trainings to help people at all different levels, from do-it-yourselfers to people that just have more money than time and really want us to help accelerate them.
So you mentioned the launch kit, but could you expand on those resources?
Sure. We have 3 different training tools. The do-it-yourself is the Investor's Toolkit,
Okay.
and that's just a digital training program, and it's great. But if you and I, like I know for me, those courses, like do-it-yourself, doesn't work. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't have the self-discipline. Like let's just take working out. I don't know about, I mean, Cameron looks like he works out and probably has, it's probably jacked. But in Anthony, it's not like that you don't, but let's just face it, Cameron looks like he's on steroids. So anyways.
First time in my life I've ever been accused.
There's going to be something wrong with the video here.
Yeah. So anyways, he might have the self-discipline to get up at 4:30 in the morning and work out on his own and know exactly how to do it, have perfect form, not get hurt. I know for me, I want to do personal training, and I want somebody to hold me accountable, keep me focused, give me support, show me exactly how to do each exercise. And that's what we have as well in our training. We call our group training is Flight School. And then, of course, we have the one-on-one training at all different levels as well.
Now, tell us a little bit more about flight training, because I think you actually have one coming up in Vegas.
Okay, so those are our live events. Those are our boot camps. And whenever you get any type of training, you get 2 free tickets to our live event.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are they going to learn at the live event?
So they are going to be immersed for 2.5 days in this land investing process. And it is intense. So they are going to learn from getting the list, to scrubbing the list, to pricing the list, everything that they need to know in deal flow. They're going to understand all the marketing, the 4 principles of marketing, the channels that are working right now. They're going to understand, closing, how to actually close, what we say when we're on the phone, when we close a property, how to use our tech tools, how to, create this virtual assistant team, everything that they're going to want to know in the business. And then what's great about boot camp is that when you're in the room, you've got people in there who've been doing it for years, and you can see in real time how they're running their business. And one of our favorite modules is Grill the Geeks. And so we just have people grill them. Like, how did you get started? What are you finding here? And they just get grilled and talk about their deals. We had clients last boot camp, Jen and Tyler Kelly. Tyler just quit his job. They did 100 deals their first year.
Wow. And
they're spending all this time with their kids now, and it's been transformative for them. But to hear those stories live is amazing.
Great. Now, all this sounds great, and you're saying that you scaled your business where you're working about 1 hour a week. Now,
Right.
If somebody, let's be realistic, if somebody were to start today, so they get the Investor's Toolkit and they spend some time learning, right? There's got to be a learning curve for them to figure this all out. Like,
I would say they should budget 12 to 18 months. And within that time, I'd like to see them not cash. They'll do a lot of cash deals, but just passive income between $5,000 and $15,000 a month.
well, that's not too bad. Okay.
And then so we'd like to build our passive income machine in 12 to 18 months.
Okay. Oh, great. So in order to do that, realistically, how much time is that going to take?
It
I mean,
depends
like how
on
many hours a week?
right. So it just depends on you and your your skill sets coming in.
Mhm.
So for some people, it's 2 hours a day working in the business. For some people, it's an hour a day. For other people, it might be they're spending like 4 to 5 hours on the weekends because they have a full-time job doing this. So it just depends on them. I typically say that our average client should budget in the beginning a focused hour or two a day.
Okay.
Well, okay. I was assuming like 10 or 12 a week, but seven
Which you're
sounds
close.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think is the biggest thing that stops people? Like I'm sure you've had some people who've jumped all in, got the course and started doing it, but 18 months later they've stopped. Is there like one big factor that one obstacle people need to overcome to get through that barrier?
Yeah. I mean, it's whether it's land investing or owning a business. I mean, this is really running a business. So every entrepreneur will tell you that it takes grit to own and operate any business. And the same thing with land investing. If you're going to go into any type of niche or investing, anything, you've got to have grit. You've got to be able to, be persistent and keep your, really letting go of these artificial timelines where people say to themselves, well, in the next, 6 months, I need to make, $50,000 and have 5,000 months of passive income. And then 6 months happens and they're not there. They're like, oh, it doesn't work. Well, who created this artificial timeline? So I love the Tony Robbins quote: we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years. So the only way to fail in anything that's actually viable, right? We're not talking about like, I've been doing investment banking, and let's just pick on MLM, right? Where the average company might last 3 to 5 years. So who knows about the expiration date on certain models, but on a viable model that has a track record, the only way to fail is to quit.
The along those same lines as you're talking about grit and quitting is I like your book because I like your book a lot for several reasons, but one of the things is that in there you lay out just the business model and you say, hey, do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in your book, you also devote 2 chapters in there to kind of the mindset. I think it's chapters 5 and 6. And you say, hey, listen, here's where most people will quit. It's not because of the business performance. It's because of what's going on in your head. And I enjoy that. And one of the things that I looked up was on page 105 this is a quote that you wrote in here. It says, I promise you this, you'll never see me standing in front of a mansion promising you that the path to success is an easy straight line that requires no work, right? So you're not saying that this is easy. You're just saying that it's simple. It's here's the steps that we're going to lay out for you. You're going to hit some bumps in the road. Just keep on going.
Yeah. I mean, nothing in life that's worth doing is easy.
Yeah.
Nothing. And this is, again, one of those things that's worth doing, but it's not easy. I like to think of like hockey players. So hockey players are hockey players because they love hockey enough to get knocked down, and yet they keep getting back up. And that's the same thing in business. Like, you've got to love it enough that when you get knocked down, you're like, okay, take out the front teeth now.
Yeah.
Back teeth, side teeth are gone. I'm ready for more.
Chapter 6, I think you call it embrace the suck, right? This is, there's going to be parts where it's going to be painful.
Yeah,
Mark,
absolutely.
I have a question. Let's say that there's a listener out there that is, man, this is interesting, and they buy your book and listen to it, and they want to get more involved, and they like their wife to get involved, and the wife is like, flipping land, and she's she's not into it. Any advice for that listener or for me to better explain how this flipping land is? That it's better than it sounds.
Yeah. So, look, happy wife, happy life. And we do come across this from time to time. Really what turns most spouses, whether it's the woman who's excited or the man, is when they come to boot camp, because it's real and, everyone's skeptical. So yeah, it's easy for me to say this works. It's self-serving for me to say, this is great and it works. And if you just do this and this and this, but when you hear it from other people who haven't been doing it forever, and they're in, their first year or their second year, and you're seeing the results and they're telling their stories, it's way more real. It's way more credible. And then the spouses are like, oh my gosh, we have to do this.
Yeah.
But until that point, or, I mean, you can go on the website and listen to testimonials, but there's nothing like that, that interaction during a networking hour where there's no one around, no one has an agenda, and they just say, oh my gosh, this is transformative. You wouldn't believe this deal I did. They tell the story. They're so proud. And then everyone gets on board. But until that point, it's very difficult because, I mean, look, it's the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you'd mentioned agenda. So I'm a skeptic by nature. And what do you say when somebody says, well, why are you selling if you're making so much money flipping land, why are you teaching other people to do it?
Yeah, my wife asked me the same thing when I first started. So like we said, so yeah, it's a very fair question. In fact, I have like a whole thing in our Facebook group, these FAQs, frequently asked questions, and that's one of them. So great. Why is Mark teaching this? Isn't he creating his own competition? Doesn't he make more money from teaching than he does from doing? And it's a really excellent question, because you see this time and time again where, if we just take 2006, you make a lot of money flipping houses, and, it worked in 2006. Now you're starting to teach it in 2008. Well, none of those principles work anymore. So it's a really good question. So my answer essentially is, look, I'm a full-time land investor. I love land investing, but nobody ever, after they bought a piece of raw land from me, said to me, hey, Mark, this land purchase literally has changed my life. Versus, people that have been able to retire their spouses, quit their jobs, spend more time doing the things they really want to do. It's really made a huge impact in their life. And it's been so gratifying for me. And plus, like, after you've done something for 10 years, you want a new challenge. But I can tell you right now that this niche is going to stay nice and small. It's not sexy, and it's a huge market. I wouldn't do anything to hurt my own market.
I love that. In our business, we've had the pleasure of kind of working with some very wealthy people and successful people, and almost to a T, some of those the most wealthy people that I've ever met have always been a part of something that's bigger than them, right? Whether it's a cause or something else. And I think that's kind of what you're describing there is, hey, this is great that I made a whole bunch of money, but in reality, what makes me feel good, what happiness is at the end of the day, is the ability to give back and teach somebody else how to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's kind of morbid to say, but I can die in peace now professionally, knowing that I've made enough of an impact.
No, that's great, Mark. Last thing I was going to mention is in your book, Anthony was talking about spouses. Is in chapter 5, you kind of talk about the 2 characteristics that make somebody succeed in this, and you talked about the joy that you felt in getting a deal. And if you have that characteristic, then you'll do well in this industry. And made me think of my wife. And Jessica, if you're listening, I love you to death. Is that, man, we will go to the grocery store and we'll walk out of there and she will look at the receipt. And if they didn't charge her correctly, she will turn around and she'll go back. And she is awesome, and I think she would be a really good fit for this because of that simple fact right there. She loves getting a deal, and I was laughing as I was reading that chapter. I was like, you are describing my wife to a T, and so we will both be there at the boot camp.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, deal junkies love this. And it scales. You guys can travel the world. All you need is an inexpensive laptop and an internet connection, and you can work from anywhere doing this. We have several international clients. We had clients, Rachel and Sean, they got to, like, I want to say 5,000 or 6,000 a month in passive. They just quit their jobs and just started traveling around the world doing the land business together. They didn't have kids. It was easy.
That's great. That's great. Mark, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Cameron, Anthony, it's been a pleasure, even though I don't have the red mic and I feel a little badly about it.
We'll get you.
I really appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. One last time, Ed, tell our listeners where they can find you at.
Yeah, thelandgeek.com, and get the launch kit at thelandgeek.com/launch kit and get it for free just for being an Infinite Wealth podcast listener.
Awesome. Thanks for extending that invite, and we'll be sure to add a couple resources to the book and anything else on the podcast too.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, check out our website, infinitewealthconsultants.com, to find our podcast along with other additional resources.